We are going to smash the glass ceiling. Are you fed up there's not enough women on boards? Are you fed up that we're going round in a cycle? Well, this week we meet powerful women, the part of the Energy Institute that since 2015 has been measuring will we get to 40% of women in leadership roles in the energy industry. We're going to be hearing from Monica Collins, their chair, about the results at their State of Nation address this week that addressed where the figures are today in 2025. We're then going to hear from the president of National Grid and actually understand about the bittersweet moments of the results this year. We're then going to look at the issues that we see in terms of sorting out these companies, that 15% of the top 100 energy companies do not have a woman on the board. We then look at the very best in practice companies. We look at National Grid, who have achieved massive success in leadership, but we also look at Good Energy with their chief operating officer about how they've achieved the highest result in the middle management that are going to be the future board members. We don't hold back from looking at the issues of transformation with Bain, and then we look into the obvious elephant in the room. As we pull that elephant across, we ask ourselves, what's that reality of the parent blocker that's stopping people achieving board status with Elliot Rae? And then we leave the final word to Elizabeth Baxter. Today, we're going to hear from literally the most senior women in the energy, and we're going to say enough is enough. The 2030 target has to be achieved. Sit back, enjoy, get angry, and let's make some change. I want to smash that glass ceiling together with our listenership. If you enjoy this podcast, I'd hugely recommend you go back into our back catalogue and listen to episode 31 with Georgina Worrell, OB, who's head of Powerful Women, and go back to episode 25 with Monica Collins, the chair of Powerful Women. Sit back and relax. This is all made possible by our sponsor AIM Recruit. So if you're looking for anyone from sales to drivers to logistics staff, contact AIM Recruit, connected in the show notes below. But also in the show notes below, we've actually got the link to this year's State of Nation report from Powerful Women, so you can look more into the detail and enjoy the results. Now, we've got a very special congratulations to Monica Collins, the chair of Powerful Women. We're delighted to let all of our listeners know that her great work in the energy sector, giving others the opportunity to get to the very top and absolutely being so kick-ass and leading energy companies, is that she's been awarded by His Majesty the King the Order of the British Empire. So Monica, we'd love to say congratulations to you on getting the OBE, but we have to address Powerful Women, and let's go straight into the episode. Sadly, we had a wonderful interview with Monica, and it was going to be brilliant, but sometimes when you're recording live, such as the issues Martin Brundle has on the F1 grid, there's a terrible air conditioning noise, but we're here and we'll sum up the results, but we have fantastic interviews in the rest of the episode with great sound quality and great listening. But I say Monica did an incredible job presenting the annual statement, and here's some of the findings from the annual statement that we see this year. So you'll see later the president of National Grid goes into why it's a bittersweet year. And the reason it's a bittersweet year is that in 2015, Powerful Women was set up that by 2030, 40% of all leadership positions in the energy sector would be done by women. They measure this across number of people on boards of the top 100 companies. They look at the executive directors to the boards. They look at leadership role, and they look at middle management. And the reason why the results this year are bittersweet, there hasn't been movement from year on year in the way that is wanted. So when it comes to board representation, the top 100 has slightly shifted the needle from 31% to 32%. Again, in terms of executive directors on the board, it's gone from 14% to 15%. When we look at leadership in general, 34% to 35%. And when we look at middle management, it goes from 32% to 34%. Now, we have to address the fact, and you'll see up on screen for those of you looking at YouTube, we have to address the fact that there's 15 companies that are in the biggest 100 energy companies in the UK, but have nil point women on their board. Now, we are obviously going to be great to hear from them. Right reply saying, have they just not found the right candidate yet? And also I was like, is it preventing them actually getting the very best female talent? We'll go more into that in this issue about actually, if you've got great female leadership, that probably really opens you to recruiting the very, very best female graduates, the very best female senior managers, and getting those people to move across to your company that actually see opportunity of getting to the board one day. So we do have to look at the companies that did give information that in 2025 at 0% representation on their board of females. So we've got Archer Limited, we've got Carbon Clean, we've got EPH, we've got Econ Holdings, we've got Green Energy Group, which surprises me because, like Caroline Lombard is a very senior female, obviously not on their board in terms of the count, and it's great to hear from Green Energy. We've got Gresham House, we've got GridSurf, our friendly people provide electric charging around the country. We have Ineos, so Jim, you're always welcome on the podcast, one of our most successful energy companies, but we have to ask, why is there no female representation on the board? We have Intergen, we have OVO Group, which is just so amazing at marketing, but we ask, why isn't there a role for a woman on the OVO Group board? We then have Perenco International. We have Prax Group. My brothers from Surrey, we're both Surrey Energy Institutes. We'd love to have Prax on to talk about where the opportunity might be. And then we have U Group, and then rounding off that list, and some of them went backwards, we've got Harland and Wolfe Group, and then we've got Petrofat Limited. As I say, we're not going to go too hard on those guys, but we'd love to say, if those companies in the next year get an opportunity to actually bring on another board member, why can't it be a woman? And we'd love you guys to come back on the podcast and say how maybe it's changed and what's helped you towards that. So good luck to all those companies. And I guess because they got no women on the board, we have to say good luck, gentlemen. Let's try and sort out your house there. And I look forward to the comments about that. But we have to celebrate the top third. I'm not going to list everyone, but essentially if you go into the report, you'll see a wonderful representation. But we will mention in 2025 all those companies that have achieved over 50% representation of female board members on their group. The good news is there's 13 companies, so we can go from 13 backwards before we announce our top one. We have got SFE, Securing Energy for Europe. We've got Odefeld Technology. We've got Chevron, and Chevron Corporation, one of the longest standing energy companies in the world. We have Star Energy. We have Telecom Plus. We have the National Systems Operator, NESO. We've got BP. We've got Ceres Power Holdings. We've got the Renewable Infrastructure Group. We've got Vesta Offshore Windblades UK. At number 3, we have got Greencoat UK Wind. At number 2, we've got Veolia Group. And at number 1, we've got Next Energy Solar Fund, and that's on the base of percentage of board. But look at the whole table of the top 100. I'd love to see where you see your company, and did it meet the expectations that you thought it's about where it should be? And then also, there's a lot of really great companies, and some of them today we will be talking to directly, such as National Grid and Good Energy. Enjoy and listen. So the next bit on the podcast we're looking at is the bittersweet reality of the results. I'm delighted to say that one of the top companies on the results survey was National Grid, and we got a chance to sit down with their president of National Grid, Cordi O'Hara, to talk about the findings and about how we sort this out. You're obviously one of the most senior people in the energy industry, forget gender, and you said it was bittersweet. What did you mean by that?
So I think for leading companies who have been progressively focusing on diverse hiring practices, supportive environments, and really focusing on intentional culture, they're doing well. But not all are operating at the same levels of commitment and focus. And so whilst we're seeing progression, we're not seeing it fast enough. at a scale that means our sector is truly attractive to all employee bases and talents for our journey ahead. And that's why it's bittersweet.
And just a quick one. National Grid came well out on the report. Obviously, you're across the UK and US. You have a substantial workforce. What's worked for National Grid in terms of achieving success in top-level management, middle management, and those succession chains in attracting females into various different roles?
You know, the whole agenda is about creating the best talent pools to deliver critical work in the energy transition. We need diverse perspectives to get there, and we need to represent the communities we serve. So it's integral to our strategy, and we demonstrate that through how we live our values, which is doing the right thing, finding a better way and make it happen. So it's a systemic approach, it's a differentiator for how we deliver, and we want to be a high-performing organisation, which we are. All of those things are linked, they're not separate.
Cordi, thank you for your time today. If the listener wants to hear more about National Grid, Abby talks in a previous episode about the $60.5 billion they're spending on infrastructure now. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
Then we've got one of my favourite energy leaders. She's promised us there's going to be a full episode with Alison later in the series. But we've got the Foreign and Commonwealth Office Senior Energy Advisor, Alison Flower, and she's going to be talking about how do we sort out this 15% of companies that have no women representation at all. Alison, you've obviously got to very senior levels in the energy industry. We heard the state of address for Monica just now and your fellow colleagues on Power for Women. Some positives, but also a lot of challenges still. What's your initial reaction to this year's figures?
Well, I think obviously there are some positives there, and obviously it's never great to see a status quo, but I think we need to think about the actions which Powerful Women are good at doing, and I think we need to find those enabling environments where we can make sure that everyone's valued. But I think the fact that we've got the statistics, we've got a greater data set to go on, but actually what can we find that is of value and creating value for people to move forward.
Now, obviously when we last met, it was International Energy Week. You were talking to tables of those people who are kind of in the middle of their careers looking to really move on up. I was just wondering, having heard today, and there was a lot of focus on how you go from middle management to the board, for those people who say around the age of 30 mark, have had a successful grad career, now in middle management, what steps do you think they should do in the energy industry, especially as a woman, to make sure that they end up as that 40% number in 2030? So what can they do in the next 5 years of their career to really put themselves in a good position to lead companies and add value to any board that would consider them?
I think two things they need to think was, one is think about not the job they're in now or the job they want to do next, but the job ahead of that, and actually think of the experiences and the challenges that will give them that, and actually really challenge themselves and probably think of getting a mentor that's actually going to support them to do that. Also have confidence in their own value. I think confidence is the most important thing that's going to get them through those middle tier years actually. I think we heard about retention and people not feeling valued. So actually making sure they feel valued and actually can put it in the forefront of their mind, and actually that confidence thing that they feel valued in that organisation, and if they're not feeling valued, to actually speak up.
Now, we heard about some excellent companies that will go really deep into detail on the podcast at the top of the rankings, but sadly there was 15 companies with not a single female on their boards. What would the message be? Because obviously you are a successful business leader, you've now got a successful role in government, but I was just interested, from that point of view, what do you think those 15 companies should be thinking about in the year ahead, the good reasons to have a successful woman on their boards?
Well, I think maybe those 15 companies should actually go and look at the companies that have got a board with women on it, and maybe do a bit of peer learning and see, what makes them successfur, and see how they can actually make that change, and do a bit of a budding system or something, and actually have a bit of a navel gazing to see how they can make that change and actually understand, will it make a difference to them?
Alison, thank you for your time today, and we'll keep on WhatsApping you until you do a full episode with us.
I will do. I'll be there, don't you worry.
So we also want to talk about best practice and really indulge in best practice, not just National Grid, but the company that got best amount of middle managers roles for women. So therefore you would have thought the future looks bright in this company is Good Energy. So we're about to hear from Fran Woodward, the Chief Operator of Good Energy, and then the person whose team has helped put together with Powerful Women, and that is the senior partner of Bain and Company, Olga Mascat, and they will cover multiple areas about what's winning, what's not working, but why essentially Good Energy has had such a vision to employ those amount of women in their middle management and upwards divisions. We are at the Powerful Women's nation statement launch about the results in 2025. We have some of the people that have been heavily involved from both a success story. So we've got Fran from Good Energy, and Good Energy was really one of the standout companies. And we have Olga from Bain, who as a legal firm, they have given their bit to try and find the statistics that helps people measure success. But first of all, Fran, I'd like to start with yourself. At Good Energy, you seem to get a glowing review today. What triggered that movement in terms of making sure that successful women are in leadership positions across your company?
I think actually it's been a fairly long-term project for us, and we started at it by working on our culture. So I would say there was a lot of talk today about having a genuinely inclusive culture, and that is what we have really, really focused on, as well as focusing on how we develop talent, again, which Olga raised as an issue. And again, that's probably been a 5-year project. So we have obviously achieved over 40% of women on our main board, over 40% in our senior leadership team, and we're at 52% in our middle management team. And that is, and that particularly is impressive in areas like energy trading, technology, product and propositions, because these are traditionally male-dominated areas. And the only way we've managed to break that barrier is by developing our own female talent within and promoting them through. And then also, frankly, when you get to a certain critical mass, you become very attractive to other women. So we've had the double whammy of lots of women attract more women, and I think that's a sweet space we hope to stay in.
Certainly, as dad of 2 daughters, I would say get your CVs into Good Energy. They're a bit too young at the moment, but
Yes, please.
We help companies transform. Our mission is to work with change-oriented executives to help them achieve extraordinary results for shareholders, results for society. So coming to your question, I was speaking a lot today about our blueprint for action, which we included in the report we supported Powerful Women on. And I was very passionate, I continue passionate on the equitable talent journey. You can put all various flexibility policies in place. They will be not taken or used if your talent journey does not reflect those flexibility opportunities. If you make it more difficult to find opportunities for development because somebody is working flexibly, if you restrict access to opportunities because of working flexibly, people will not take it up because they are going to worry about what impact that has on their career. In fact, this is a topic that we explored with Powerful Women 2 years ago in the middle management report. We'll go into more analysis there. So we would encourage companies to think holistically about the results they want to achieve, the outcomes of better decision, better talent development, and better diversity as an outcome of that, and then look at all elements that they need to address, which is equitable talent development, inclusive culture, as well as set of policies which attracts all the talents to them.
Is there any toolkit suggestions either of you would say that if you're in that position in the energy sector now, and especially female because of what we discussed today, is about the next steps you take to try and make sure you're in the right position to be selected for a board?
So there is a whole range of board opportunities, and in fact we, Power for Women and Bain & Company, we collaborate with an organization called Women on Boards. I would really encourage all the listeners to go on the website and explore that organization. The FTSE boards, the private equity on boards, even middle management boards require a certain level of experience and career experience in order to be selected. So you have had to have an executive position. But there are many volunteer boards, there are school governance type of opportunities, local organizations that are looking for volunteers to help on pro bono basis, and those are great development opportunities that people earlier in their career can take on. And in fact, having that experience makes the CV more interesting for when people progress further on their career and are looking at more professional board positions.
I think I work for an organisation that's quite broad-minded, and one of the things my organisation did for me is they put me on the board as a Chief Operating Officer. Now, it was alluded to earlier, on a practical level, lots of boards will only entertain having two roles on the board from the executive team, which is the Chief Exec and the Chief Finance Officer. So that massively narrows the pipeline of brilliant people in marketing, communications, HR, operations to actually ever get on a board. So I think consideration to some broadening of which roles go on boards is good. The other thing I'd say to women, because Olga's right, you can't really start doing non-executive work until you've actually got yourself internally at quite a senior level. But suggest through your network groups, can you shadow your own board? Can you go and sit in and observe sometimes board meetings? Can you ask for more interaction with the actual board in your company? Because actually just observing a board work is also really useful and help from a development perspective, and I think we don't use the opportunity enough in businesses to just trust people, allow them in the room and allow them to watch and observe.
And then finally, Brian, I just wanted to understand, our listeners love the word profit, sustainability, company success, hitting KPIs, hitting bonuses. Why do you think women in a leadership team leads to more successful companies? Because ultimately that's why people get appointed to positions. So what do you think the sort of having a gender balance on your board actually gives good energy in other companies you've seen?
I just think it's all about diversity of experience, diversity of thought. Ultimately, most companies are there to serve people. They're there to serve a customer base, and that customer base is made up of a huge diversity of people. So this is not only about women, clearly. This is about boards having broader representation of the very people that they are there to serve. Yes, they are there to generate profit in their shareholder base, but many of them ultimately won't do that unless they're meeting some kind of societal need. So I think at a fundamental level, that's why you see a correlation between good business performance and broader diversity in boards.
I would go back to the point I was making earlier on talent development and diversity often being an outcome rather than an input. And companies that are developing their talent, attracting, developing, retaining their talent, are going to make better decisions, are going to be more efficient, are going to be more effective, are going to be more successful. And as a result, you will see those companies are also more diverse and more inclusive.
So just to finish off, because I know you guys have got lots of people to see, it's been an amazing venue. I got to say, Bain's View is one of the best views in London, so I'm very excited for that. Can you guys just say what your companies are looking forward to for the rest of 2025 in the energy sector, in the areas that you do? So we'd like to go first, Fran, about what Good Energy is looking forward to.
Yeah, we're really excited about our growth ambitions. So we're moving much more rapidly into the installation of solar and heat pumps, and really helping our customers in their homes and businesses essentially get to net zero and be mini power stations in their own right. And so we're fired up by growth.
It is a more difficult sector now than it was in the past. The interest rates up, supply chain cost up, many renewable projects cancelled. The sector has grown very fast. There was a lot of inefficient growth. It is time for transformations. It is time for increased productivity in the sector, including talent development. It is time for companies to restructure, look how they do things better and quicker, so we can meet 2030 and future net zero ambition.
Olga, Van, thank you for your time. I think today I've been lifted in this room. You know, as someone who's part of a company that's 50% female owned, 50% female workforce as well, you just feel that the people in this room and the powerful women part of the Energy Institute is going to lead to massive results in our industry. Thank you for your dedication and work to that journey.
Thank you. It's lovely to meet you.
We do have another male voice, not just mine. We've got Elliot Rae, who's actually going to talk about the elephant in the room, that issue that really stands, the idea of general society concepts of parenting, the parent that always picks up from nursery, the problems of shared parental leave, and he talks about that issue of actually that whole thing around men and parenting and their careers and how we sort it out. So, what was interesting today, listeners, we didn't just have people directly involved in the energy sector. We've got this certain young gentleman who is on a cause of parenting out loud. Can you tell our listeners a bit who you are and what the cause is?
Sure, my name is Elliot Rae. I'm the founder and curator of Parenting Out Loud, which is a campaign and workplace culture change program. It's all about addressing the fact that 1 in 3 dads do not feel comfortable talking about their childcare responsibilities at work, but we know how important equal parenting is to outcomes for our children, mental health and well-being of both parents, and of course gender equality and female representation in the workplace as well. So yeah, we work with companies to create more inclusive cultures, whether that's with leadership, staff networks, and helps them to review policies, and it's really look at how do they engage the men and dads in their companies.
Now, I think the message that came out of the room today, there's not been enough progress, that there's still possibility, but there's not been enough progress, such as horrendous stats like 15% of boards don't even have a woman on them. Now, one of the things I'm interested in, we talked about the motherhood blockers, and as someone who owns children's nurseries, I'm interested in 2 areas. The first area I'm going to ask about is the classic, your child is sick, and I see with nurseries, I would say it's probably over 90% that's the mother that comes and collects, even if both parents are working, which is our traditional thing. How do we stop that culture? It's always the mum that has to run out of work. Because I think long term there probably is an impact then on getting board positions and so on from just a culture like that.
I think there's a couple of different things there. I mean, the reality is that mothers do the majority of childcare. Even where dads want to, they are less likely to hand in flexible working requests, and when they do, they're less likely to have those flexible working requests approved. So there is still stigma around male caring. There is still work to do with men and dads to empower them internally to want to prioritise childcare as well. So that's that work to be done too.
One of the things we found sort of 5 years on is that essentially when shared parental leave comes up, you get 2 reactions. One, the father thinks it could impact his career. And secondly, because of the way it works in the UK, where essentially if they've got a block of 52 weeks, potentially it might mean the mother giving up, say, 10 to 25 weeks, depending on the policy, and they don't want to miss that time, is that as a result, shared parental leave hasn't been taken up by many people. How do we get that structural change? Because listening to the blockers today, it feels like if both genders took shared parental leave, it would then help that flow of people to the boards, which Powerful Women's trying to focus on. So how do we change that? So the policy's been made, but the action now to use it is not happening on shared parental leave.
Well, shared parental leave is a failed policy. I'm sure some people on a micro level have had a good experience with it. I meet people all the time who have taken it and it's been good for them. But as a macro policy, it hasn't worked. The take-up has been between 3 to 4% of eligible couples have taken shared parental leave. There are many blockers, it's admin heavy. Unless it's topped up by your organisation, it's statutory, and if a man is the main earner, he can't afford to take that time off. But also, it's shared. And many new mothers need that time for themselves to be at home to maybe recover from a C-section, to just adjust to life as a mother. So shared parental leave was never and will never be the answer.
Now, final thing for our listeners, you have a special 3 letters after your name. Can you tell us about meeting the royal family, what the honour was for? Because we love talking about bling on this podcast. So tell us about those 3 magic letters after your name, Elliot.
So I'm due to meet a member of the royal family on the 16th of July. I haven't met them yet. So I got the New Year's honour, which was very, very nice. Accepted it really from my dad, to be honest. My mum and dad, they were very, very proud. So it gave them the opportunity to say their son's got an MBE, which is great. But it was for my services to supporting new parents. So alongside the Parenting Out Loud campaign, for many years I've done a lot of community work. I have a non-for-profit called Music, Football, Fatherhood, and we did 3 community events that just engage dads in conversations about well-being, gendered parenting roles, finances, equal parenting, support networks.
If you want the final word on this, what better than one of the real leaders of Powerful Women, and that's board member Elizabeth Baxter, who's also director of finance at Vargon. Now, Elizabeth's had an incredible career, but she talks about, should we even go further on taxation? They're probably my words rather than hers, but sit back and enjoy. And would you go as far as say there should be a different tax rate for companies without men that have no women on the board and have gone for solely men? Do you think there should be a tax penalty?
I do think we need more action from government. When you're accountable for data publicly, it shifts behaviors. So I do think that yes, that we should, I don't know about whether tax is the right mechanism, but I think we need more and more public accountability and guidance as Olga described it, we're stuck in this messy middle of low-hanging fruit on diversity has been achieved in the first few years, and now we're sort of stuck with stagnating progress. So yes, we need policymakers and business leaders and employees all pushing.
And just to end on a positive, we're in 67 countries. You're obviously in this room today because you've had a successful career in the energy sector. Just tell a few of our listeners about why you chose energy and why actually you didn't find any glass ceilings in terms of stopping your ultimate goals to, say, being on the board of Powerful Women.
So I was drawn to the energy sector because I find purpose addressing climate change, and I really enjoy contributing to the energy transition. And I would not say that I have not found glass ceilings. I feel that I have witnessed and experienced every chapter in Sheryl Sandberg's Lean In book. And I completely understand why it is that we are seeing stats on lack of balance, and people's lived experiences are that we're not where we should to be, where we would like to be in terms of culture. I feel very strongly that an inclusive culture is one in which every single employee can thrive. And so that this is not about only targeting certain groups. This is about building environments in which every person feels that they're treated with respect and that their voice matters, and then we'll all be better off.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed Wolfe Power Club this week, I'll just reiterate what we said at the start of the show. You really should listen to the head of Powerful Women, episode 31, Georgina Worrell, OBE. And then episode 25, Monica Collins, their chair, has just been also made an OBE. Thank you for your indulgence, and we'll be back next week with some fantastic energy news.